So in this video, I'm going to tell you 3 scams that jewelry resellers need to be aware of. Scam number 1 is the misrepresented bulk lots. Now, you know I am a huge fan of buying jewelry in bulk, but if it's something you've never done before, you could easily get scammed or maybe just get taken advantage of. Now, what you want to look out for is sellers who may cherry pick some of the best pieces out of a jewelry lot and then they will sell the leftovers to you. And I know I've talked about this before, but sometimes some sellers will not even post an actual picture of the jewelry lot. Now, this is something that causes a red flag for me. I know some people are very comfortable doing this, but I want to see the actual lot that I'm getting. So if you see a listing that has a representation of what you may get, do your due diligence and ask the seller for some actual photos of the lot. I know there's a lot of sellers that do that, but I'm very cautious and I'm very wary of those types of listings because I don't want any bad surprises. All right, so the way that you can avoid getting scammed this way is to really check the buyer's feedback. You know, are there people complaining about some of the lots that they have sold? What is the idea, or what is kind of the standard of the items that they're selling, or in this case, the bulk lot that they're selling? And I'm going to say this, you want to avoid those listings where it just has one generic picture and it doesn't show you the actual lot that you're buying. You may get lucky and get the most perfect jewelry lot, but why take a chance if you don't have to? All right, scam number 2 is stolen photos to selling fake or non existent jewelry. Now, this scam happens a lot on Facebook in the buy, sell, trade groups for jewelry, on Facebook, even on Facebook Marketplace. The way this scam works is that a seller will steal jewelry pictures from another listing, maybe on Etsy, maybe off of eBay. And so someone will literally steal someone else's pictures and they will post a listing as if they have that jewelry for sale. And then what will happen is you come across it, you say, wow, this looks great. The price is perfect. You send this seller money, and then they disappear. Now, I have seen this scam happen a lot in the Facebook groups, and it's becoming more and more common, surprisingly. And so I wanted to make sure I mentioned that scam here in this video so you can have a heads up and so you don't get caught up in this particular scam. Now, the way you're going to protect yourself is you are going to make sure that you ask questions. If something feels a little bit off or something feels a little bit sketchy, trust your gut on that. You also want to do a reverse image search of those particular jewelry photos, because if you find them somewhere else, then the person who is selling them may not be the actual owner of those jewelry pieces that are for sale. All right, so you always want to also make sure that if you are going to buy jewelry and you feel comfortable with it, that the transaction is done through PayPal goods and services. If the seller tells you, oh, I only take Zelle, or I only take Venmo, or I only do PayPal friends and family, that's a red flag, because once that money is sent, you have no recourse to get it back if the seller does not send you exactly what it is that you purchased. So make sure that you don't get scammed. The only way I do transactions that are not on, eBay or whatnot or Poshmark is through PayPal goods and services. So far, I haven't had any issues with it, but if I did, at least I am protected as a buyer and a seller when I purchase jewelry that way. All right, scam number 3 is false claims about jewelry materials or even designer or name brand jewelry. I have seen a lot of people making claims that certain jewelry pieces are Juliana. That seems to be the biggest scam, especially again on Facebook in the buy sell trade groups. So you want to be really careful. The other one that is really common is that a lot of sellers will say that they have pieces that are Bakelite and they really are not. They're just plastic or maybe acrylic or lucite or whatever the case may be. So make sure that you are doing your due diligence and that you are not just kind of going blindly by what the seller says. I've also seen people get scammed as it relates to sterling silver, because I know a lot of people don't really know silver, and sometimes the 925 stamp could be faked as well. So you want to be careful. And if the seller can prove that they tested these items as being legitimate or authentic or whatever, that's a good sign. But if they don't, then that's a red flag. So, the way to avoid getting scammed this way is to educate yourself on how real Juliana, real Bakelite, and real sterling silver pieces look. You may want to do some research in some of the Facebook groups or on eBay or wherever, just so you know what those pieces should look like. All right, you want to ask for photos of the construction, the signature, or maybe any type of acid test results if the seller has them or if they've been done. And you want to avoid vague listings where it says, oh, it looks like, or I think this is Juliana Bakelite or whatever. All right. And I say Juliana and Bakelite because, like I said, those are the two types of jewelry where I see people have gotten scammed. All right. And I'm going to throw this one in there for a bonus. Fake sign listings on eBay. All right. Now, this is kind of like keyword spamming, where someone will say Juliana style, or they will say in the style of Miriam Haskell. All right, so it's not actually a Juliana or Miriam Haskell piece. It's a piece that they're claiming looks like that, but you have the expectation that it could be one of these designer name brand vintage pieces. So make sure you read the entire listing and make sure that you are paying attention to the actual photos, because a lot of times a lot of sellers will do this and they will throw in these names in the hopes of getting their jewelry pieces sold. All right, so you also want to search the actual sold comps. Again, you may want to do a reverse image search on those particular pieces and see if they actually are Juliana or whatever. And you can also ask the seller, is this piece signed? Can I see the mark? Can you photograph the stamp? And see what their response is, because if it is what they claim it is, they should have no problem providing additional photos. All right, so those are some of the scams that I want you to be aware of, especially as a jewelry reseller. I'll go over them one more time. Number one, misrepresented bulk lots. All right, enough said on that one. You want to check, everything you can check in order to avoid getting scammed that way. Number two, stolen photos from other people's listings. Again, this happens a lot on Facebook and in Facebook Marketplace and in some of the Facebook groups. Number three is false claims about the actual jewelry. Like I said, people saying something is Bakelite and it is not. And then my bonus scam is keyword spamming. Most people know that that's not really allowed on any of the major reselling platforms, but you may see it, like I said, on Facebook or maybe on social media, where there really aren't any rules saying that you can't do that. So just be very, very careful. All right. So I think that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful and I hope you make some money.